Take two. It is way too early for a top 25 for 2021, but a top 25 we will deliver tonight here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for jumping online with us tonight, Friday night, 6 o'clock Eastern Time for our live call-in show. But please do not call in yet. I'm going to unveil my top 25, and then I'm going to take your calls. And, of course, I will be in the live chat to take your comments and questions as always. Keep in mind, everyone, thank you so much for making it over from the previous link to this one, that you produce the show. When it comes right down to it, all of you produce the show with your comments, with your debate topics, with your questions, with your banter in the live chat, and that combined with, of course, the phone calls, you ultimately produce the show. So I serve up the topic for the night, but you produce the show. So anything is on the table for college football discussion tonight. As always, there is nothing that's off limits. Everything concerning college football and maybe some other things that you would like to discuss as well. But I'm going to unveil my way too early top 25 that I should have unveiled when I actually put it together, which was just a couple days after the national championship game. I jotted down these notes mid-January, and I have been waiting and putting it off, producing my way too early top 25 to the point where I thought, you know what, I want to unveil this live, and so I can get direct feedback from all of you and we can talk it up. Please join me on Patreon. It costs 16 cents per day to join me on Patreon at our Voice of College Football community. And what you get there is exclusive live streams. We'll have one this weekend. Watch parties during the season, and maybe we'll even have watch parties during the off season if there's something decent on to watch. And then we also take your comments, your requests, your recommendations over there as well as have our exclusive predictions over there. And many join us on Patreon just to say, Mark, thank you. Here's 16 cents per day. Thank you. So I appreciate that. So join us on Patreon. The link's in the description section of any of the videos. Also, you can contribute on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Just grab the link in the description sections. All right, here's my top 25. Here we go. So I originally made this top 25 right after the national championship game, within a couple days. And then I slightly tweaked it after National Signing Day. Of course, 90% of the commits were signed in December, so we knew who had signed the best classes already. But I made a few adjustments after National Signing Day was complete and in the books in February. So here's my top 25. Let the criticism begin. And keep in mind that I did not take the schedule into consideration. So this is not based on the schedule. So this is not, for example, me thinking this team is the 5th best team in the country and this team is the 10th best team in the country. But their schedule is brutal. Their schedule is easy. Therefore, I think the 5th best team in the country is actually going to finish number 15, and the 10th best team in the country is going to finish number 6 because they've got an easy schedule. I did not take schedules into consideration. Also, keep in mind that this is not my final preseason top 25. We're in the midst of spring practice across the nation, and most teams are going to spring practice in the next few weeks. And after spring practice, I'm going to have a lot to say about these football teams, and already do. Just in the next few days, you're going to see conversation on Texas and Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, all sorts of teams that we're talking about currently. Released videos today on Clemson and Georgia in particular. All right. Let's get to the top 25, and then we'll hear from you. At number 25, the Florida Gators. Florida was arguably, for much of the season in this past season, the 5th or 6th best team in the country. They didn't land well at the end, but that team has to be pretty much discounted. Kyle Trask is gone. Kyle Pitts is gone. The wide receiver core is gone. They lose 3 of their top playmakers on defense. Todd Grantham is back. That's not necessarily a good thing for Florida's defense as defensive coordinator. He probably should have been fired. Dan Mullen has gone from being a quirky, you don't know what you're going to get kind of coach to actually doing some bizarre things that are actually impacting the program in the recruiting. So Florida's not necessarily in a great place right now. Emory Jones should win the starting quarterback spot. He has the experience. Anthony Richardson does not. Many people believe that Anthony Richardson will be a better quarterback than Emory Jones, but Emory Jones should be the starter first and foremost because Dan Mullen does not like to play quarterbacks with inexperience. Who does, but Dan Mullen especially does not like to start a quarterback who is inexperienced. DeMarcus Bowman, incoming 5-star transfer from Clemson. It would have been a bolster to the offense, of course, if Eric Gilbert would have stayed, the transfer from LSU, the former 5-star, who after just about 4 weeks committed to the Florida football team, and that's probably the worst word I could use, committed to the Florida football team, because he never practiced, he didn't lift weights, he didn't step on campus at Florida, but he was supposed to play for Florida in 2021, and now Eric Gilbert may not even play college football in 2021. We understand he's having some personal issues. So we've got the Florida Gators at number 25. At number 24, a team that has been missing from the top 25 in the past few years, and that's TCU. Gary Patterson, I believe, to be one of the best coaches in college football. Has he lost his fastball? I don't know. He seemed to be very hungry, very determined years ago. We'll see if we get that Gary Patterson back, along with a quarterback in Max Duggan, who's been marginal, mediocre, pedestrian, and they need more than that at quarterback. They return one of the top defenses in the Big 12, and TCU, I believe, is the 24th best team in the country. At number 23, we've got old favorite Kentucky. Mark Stoops has gone north of the Mason-Dixon line to pull top recruits from Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan to play for the Kentucky Wildcats. They got a headline transfer from Wan'Dale Robinson this year. He comes in from Nebraska after catching more than 60 passes this past season. I think 53 catches for Wan'Dale Robinson. The Kentucky defense and the offensive line in the running game is going to be stout. It's up to Joey Gatewood to prove that he is a big-time SEC quarterback. And if Kentucky gets the quarterback play from Joey Gatewood, then they could cause some trouble for the SEC Eastern Division. This is probably the most stable program in the division aside from Georgia. At number 22, we've got Louisiana. Of course, we saw what they did both in the bowl game and early in the season against Iowa State and winning by 17 points in Ames, Iowa. And Louisiana returns the most production of any team in FBS play. The most offensive production comes back to Louisiana football, and we have Louisiana at number 22. In our 21st position, we've got Penn State. Sean Clifford back. Needs to improve. 2020, a near disaster for James Franklin. They lost their first 5 games. They had the debacle at the end of the game against Indiana on the controversial call, blasted by Ohio State the next week, and then the season was basically over for a team that expected to contend for a Big Ten championship. But they did win their final 4 games. And now sustaining the losses of the likes of Micah Parsons and Journey Brown, who are gone to the NFL and retired from football. In the latter case, Penn State should have a strong running game with Devin Ford, Noah Cain, and Keontae Lee. And I like Penn State at number 21. At number 20, Miles Brennan back was ridiculously on the pace to tie Joe Burrow's touchdown mark from 2019. That seemed impossible. I remember saying 50 times if I said it once during the offseason headed into the 2020 season. Well, if Miles Brennan throws 40 touchdown passes, that's a 50% reduction or a 33% reduction from 60 touchdowns from Joe Burrow. And Miles Brennan was actually on pace to tie Joe Burrow's touchdown mark from 2019. LSU is back with a load of talent on the field. Off the field, they are bombarded now with scandal. How that affects the team, we don't know. But I believe this is far more and better than the 20th most talented team in the country. It's one of the 5 most talented teams in the country, roughly. But I've got them at number 20 entering the season. We'll see what happens off the field with all the reports coming out. And check out our video that we just posted on the LSU scandal that started and was most prominent and at its most scandalous under Les Miles, but has seemingly and definitely continued in Ed Orgeron's time there. Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels, look out for the big offense and a better defense in 2021. Matt Corral's back at quarterback. John Rice Plumlee showed us who he could be at wide receiver in the bowl game against Indiana. And he is permanently moving from a viable quarterback option to premier slot receiver. They lose one of the best receivers in the nation in Elijah Moore and Kenny Yeboah at tight end. That's about 85% of their pass receptions, but they do have Braylon Sanders and others at wide receiver. Jerrion Ely, their best of 3 running backs, 3 top running backs, all coming back. So this is a team that played so many freshmen last year on both sides of the football. So they have experienced young talent as sophomores and juniors. Ole Miss could be really dangerous here in 2021. Lane Kiffin showed that unlike some other offensive-minded coaches that are just fixated on offense and running up scores and scheming plays and don't care as much about winning as they do about throwing for touchdown passes and scoring points and drawing up plays, that Lane Kiffin, he stacked the deck on defense in this 21 recruiting class. Check it out. Ole Miss is stacked on defense in the 21 recruiting class. Now, are most of those players going to contribute this fall? Probably not. But for future years, Ole Miss should balance it out, the offense and the defense. And the team that Ole Miss upset in the Outback Bowl, Indiana. The Hoosiers come off a season which they went 7-2. They played Ohio State tougher than anyone in the Big Ten by far, 42-35, through 500 yards of passing. Michael Penix there. He's back. He should be back and ready to go. He's got a capable replacement and backup in Jack Tuttle, the Utah transfer. Indiana's looking good. They'll be better on defense. They lose Stevie Scott at running back. They lose some of the playmakers on offense on the outside, but they have developed the wide receiver core to be outside of Columbus, Ohio, the best in the Big Ten. I like Indiana, number 18 in the country. Tom Allen will always have them hustling and playing hard and sound football. Indiana's got an interesting date against Cincinnati in the non-conference schedule. Speaking of which, they're the Bearcats. And for a 3rd consecutive year, this should be the best of the group of 5. Luke Fickell has this team at 31-6 the past 3 seasons. That includes close losses to Memphis. That includes a game in which they basically outplayed Georgia for 3.5 quarters. And even though they were letting it slip away, if they would have had better clock management at the end of the ball game, would have won the game against the Bulldogs. So Cincinnati is legitimate. Desmond Ritter's back at quarterback. Jerome Ford will take over at running back, the transfer from Alabama. Cincinnati's had, for the past 3 seasons, the best defense in the American Conference, but their defensive coordinator, of course, Marcus Freeman, goes to Notre Dame. How much will that impact Cincinnati's dominance on the defensive side of the ball? Cincinnati at number 17. Keep in mind, I'll get to your comments and questions in the live chat and also take calls after we're done with the top 25. Arizona State at number 16. They could only play 4 games in 2020. Herm Edwards has assembled an NFL coaching staff with the likes of Marvin Lewis and Antonio Pierce. I love Jaden Daniels. He had an outstanding freshman campaign in which he tied for the nation's lead in comeback victories in the fourth quarter. Arizona State at number 16. Texas at 15. The Sam Ehlinger era is finally over, and it lasted just about as long, if not longer, than the Tom Herman era. The Steve Sarkisian hire brought a lot of scrutiny, criticism. He certainly did not earn the Texas job based on his performance as a head coach at Washington or USC, because both his predecessors and his successors at those two schools performed better than he did. But Steve Sarkisian's an offensive guru. Let's see what he can do with Texas. They bring back Casey Thompson, quarterback. We got to see him on a big stage in the Alamo Bowl against Colorado, and he showed his talents. He has not necessarily won the quarterback job, but he's in the lead. Bijan Robinson should be one of the best backs in the nation, 5-star, who finally got it rolling the second half of 2020 after suffering an injury, a slight injury early in the season. Joshua Moore is one of the better wide receivers in the Big 12. Texas has loaded up on defense, of course, in the recruiting rankings, but will it come to play? Joseph Asai was the playmaker and the star of the defense. He moves on to the NFL. Miami at number 14. De'Ara King, his health's in question. If his recovery's on schedule, he should be ready for week 1 against, Alabama. Three-headed monster at running back with Chaney, Knighton, and Harris. The wide receivers have to play better. They bring in Charleston Rambo from Oklahoma, who caught 43 passes 2 years ago, 25 last season. The offensive line is improving, but needs to get better. That's a weak link on the team. The linebacking play was not good last year. Will they let their young linebackers cut loose and play? They lose 2 of the best defensive ends in college football in Jalen Phillips and Gregory Rousseau. They had a stout recruiting class with the likes of Leonard Taylor leading the way, a top 10 recruiting class coming to Miami. The secondary will be strong at the safety spot, questionable at the cornerback spot. I got Miami at number 14. Old reliable Wisconsin, number 13 in the nation. They lost some close games in 2020. Graham Mertz took over as quarterback. Jack Coan moves on to Notre Dame. So he was the starting quarterback, of course, led the Badgers to the Rose Bowl the previous season. Jack Coan got hurt. Graham Mertz stepped in and did not relinquish the role. So Coan moves on. Mertz is there, the former 5-star, did not have an outstanding season. He started fast, then he had his struggles. Wisconsin only scored 6 points against Indiana. They struggled. They struggled in the running game, believe it or not. The running game for Wisconsin is not what it typically is. Garrett Groshek has moved on. Nakia Watson has moved on. The number 1 running back coming back is Jalen Berger. It's probably going to be running back by committee, but Berger is the number 1 option. Wisconsin loses some tremendous play at linebacker, but they bring back most of the defense. Wisconsin is number 13 in the way too early top 25. From the voice of college football, we've got the Oregon Ducks, who technically won the Pac-12 this past season. I don't know how you feel about that. Oregon did not even win its own division. Now, we've seen that happen other years in college football, but it regarded and was connected and happened because of probation. This just happened because Washington couldn't play. So the Oregon Ducks get a shot at the Pac-12 championship, and they pull off the upset against USC, and they win the game. Then they lose the Fiesta Bowl to finish, 4-3. The Pac-12 champion at 4-3. That's the state of the Pac-12 right now. Mario Cristobal is recruited better than anyone in the Pac-12. He has built an offensive line rotation that's phenomenal. Penei Sewell is one of the best in the land, but he's gone to the NFL. Tyler Shook, surprisingly to many of us, opted to transfer to Texas Tech. Now, Tyler Shook started throughout this season, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and then he started the bowl game against Iowa State. Anthony Brown, though, replaced Shook when he was ineffective, and our Oregon guy, Ryan Winter, tells us that that's when the writing was on the wall. That Tyler Shook wasn't pleased with that, being replaced in the Fiesta Bowl. Anthony Brown, the former starter at Boston College, he had 20 touchdowns and 8 picks a couple of years ago. A capable player, mobile quarterback, seems to be the starter. But there is going to be a 3-way competition for the quarterback job, and Anthony Brown is the experienced one. Oregon brings back C.J. Verdell at running back, along with Travis Dye. Kayvon Thibodeau is one of the best players in college football on the defensive side. They lose players in the secondary, does Oregon, but the front seven on defense is stout and back for the most part. I've got the Iowa Hawkeyes at number 11. Interesting football team. The Iowa Hawkeyes I've got at number 11. Of course, they lost their first 2 games of 2020. Then they went on a roll, winning the final 6 games, and then the bowl game was canceled. You got Spencer Petras at quarterback. Tyler Goodson's a nice change of pace running back. A guy that, when I say change of pace, he's not a guy that subs for somebody else. But in regards to being shifty, Tyler Linderbaum is also one of the best offensive linemen in America. He's an All-American. Iowa's Iowa, but they're a better version of Iowa most likely this season. I got him number 11. Let's go to the top 10 on the Voice of College Football's Way Too Early Top 25. And I, again, will get to all your comments in the live chat and your phone calls. Let's run down the top 10. Keaton Slovis, Clay Helton, and USC are number 10. We just recorded some USC content yesterday. That's going to be posted soon. They lose Tafanoa Hufanga, who's one of the best safeties in college football. They lose a lot from the secondary. Elijah Griffin as well. But the front seven mostly back, including Drake Jackson, a force. And again, Slovis, a quarterback, one of the best wide receiver corps in the country. Stephen Carr at running back. USC looking good at number 10. Ahead of USC, a team they will see, as they typically do, this time in South Bend in November, will be Notre Dame. The Irish bring back one of the best offensive lines in the country. Of course, Ian Book, after years and years of service there in South Bend, he's gone. Jack Cohn is the replacement. There are thoughts among Notre Dame faithful that Jack Cohn will be replaced by midseason, but he will most likely be the starter out of the gate. They have one of the best tight ends in college football, and Michael Mayer. Kyron Williams back at running back is a bowling ball. They need a game changer. They need a game changer that's going to show himself to be productive on the field. They've got a couple of game changers in spring training, guys that we've heard about that haven't been able to stay on the field. So that's the difference between Notre Dame and the elite. Game changers on the outside. Speaking of which, North Carolina lost a couple good ones in De'Ami Brown and Das Newsome. 2 excellent wide receivers, gone. 2 of the best running backs in college football, gone. Michael Carter, Javonte Williams. But their replacements are supposed to be just nearly as good, just not as experienced. Sam Howell, I believe to be arguably the best quarterback coming back here in 21. The defense should be better than it's been. The recruiting's finally going to catch up to the defense. They had the 5-star cornerback that bypassed his senior year in high school and started at North Carolina. So consider this. One of their starting quarterbacks, and I can't remember his name offhand, started at North Carolina. It could have been starting in high school. Immediately steps on campus and becomes the starting cornerback at North Carolina. Chaz Surratt was arguably the best defensive player in the conference. He's gone. But UNC is loaded with talent, inexperienced talent, led by maybe the best quarterback in the country, Sam Howell. On our way too early top 25, we've got Iowa State at number 7. Listen to this. Breece Hall, maybe the best returning back in college football, is back. He would have gained almost 2,000 yards in a full season rushing and well over 2,000 rushing and receiving. Xavier Hutchinson caught 64 passes last year. He's top-notch. Charlie Kohler, 44 catches, one of the best tight ends in America. Mike Rose at linebacker. The defense is stacked, is loaded. This is a tremendous football team. It really is. And they're not recruiting any better. If you look at the recruiting rankings, they were 59th this year. They just know how to develop talent. And I think their recruiting is exceptional in that they find players that fit their system that are being underregarded. And it starts with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Brock Purdy can play better. 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. The final throw of his regular season in the Big 12 championship game when Iowa State was down 27-7 and battled all the way back to 27-21 and had the ball near the red zone, and he threw a pick down the right sideline. That is too much Brock Purdy. We need to see him clean up his mistakes, and Iowa State may challenge Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship. They play the Sooners on the road. Texas A&M comes in at number 6. They have a 3-way quarterback battle to replace Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond rarely impressed College Football Nation. I think Kellen Mond has been one of the more criticized players in college football for the past 4 years, but he's gone now. And he was a really good quarterback. Not a great quarterback, not elite, but one of the 15 or 20 best in the nation. He's gone. They've got a 3-way quarterback battle, much like Ohio State does. 3 players that are completely new, inexperienced, don't have time on the field. Isaiah Spiller is one of the best backs in the nation. I love watching him run. Texas A&M has fielded one of the best offensive lines in the nation the past few years, but they lose 2 major components up front. Buddy Johnson gone from the defense. He was the captain, the leader, the force, the guy that held it all together, but they're loaded on defense. The skill position players outside the running backs, meaning the receivers, have been great at Texas A&M in previous years. Jimbo's recruited great, but the wide receiver play last year was below standard. So the wide receivers need to step up, and they need to find the right quarterback. And Jimbo Fisher is the right guy to do that. We know that he is a quarterback guy, a quarterback guru. He's a little hard on his quarterbacks. He likes to yell at them, yank them around by the collar. But Jimbo Fisher and quarterback play go hand in hand. So he is going to coach somebody up. They get a 3-way battle going there at Texas A&M, as they do in Columbus, Ohio. This is how far out ahead of the Big Ten that Ohio State is. They pretty much have instability at every position on the field, almost, except wide receiver, except running back, and defensive line to a certain extent. They have question marks all over the place in the secondary. Sevyn Banks is back. And a bunch of guys who played roles last year showed something or didn't show something because this secondary was the worst Ohio State's fielded in forever. They lose Wyatt Davis along the offensive front. And Master Teague's back at running back. But if Ohio State wants to win a national championship, Master Teague will probably not be the guy by the end of the season. Maybe it's going to be Evan Pryor. Maybe it's going to be Travion Henderson at running back. But the wide receivers, I believe, will be the best in the country as a unit. Ohio State at number 5. And, of course, the quarterback battle will determine its fate. The upgrade in the secondary, or what's needed as an upgrade in the secondary, and the quarterback selection and performance will determine whether Ohio State maybe slops to a Big Ten championship. And when I say slops, that's still a great accomplishment to be the best team in the Big Ten. But I do not see this team, regardless of the inexperience and the issues and the things that need to be cleaned up and figured out throughout the season, I do not see this team not winning the Big Ten. But I could see 2 losses and a non-playoff year for the Buckeyes. But this should be a much different team in Week 12 than they were in Week 1. And they've got that date against Mario Cristobal and Oregon. People love Oklahoma. I do too. Alex Grinch has done an exceptional job with this defense. They had a sub 100 defense and still made college football playoffs and still won Big 12 championships with defenses ranking 100, 105, 110 in the nation. Their S&P Plus figure on defense last year was 15th in the nation. Their rankings in defense, whether it's third down conversions, yards per play, total defense, disruptive plays, all went from around 100th in the country in 2019 to top 15 to 20 status. Now they didn't play, consider this, they didn't play a Florida team in the bowl game that had its weapons. So we didn't get to see the Sooners line up against a formidable offense there. That would have been the best offense they would have played. We did not see them play non-conference games. And once Florida was depleted on offense, they were basically playing the 40th best team in the country. So it'll be interesting to see if Oklahoma's defensive jump is justified. I know that it is to a certain extent, but top 15, they lose Ronnie Perkins, one of the best in the country up front, 10.5 sacks, or 10.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. Trey Brown, one of the best cornerbacks in the land, gone. But Oklahoma is primed for a Big 12 and national championship run. Spencer Rattler played well the entire season. I think there was a misconception that he played well or did not play well, played poorly early. He played well in the games. He just always made a crucial mistake early in the losses. He cleaned that up. And what really helped him was the emergence of the running game. They averaged 3.5 yards per carry for the first couple of games. Then they took off from there. Kennedy Brooks is back, and they bring in Eric Gray, one of the best running backs in the SEC from Tennessee. Oklahoma, number 4. My third-ranked team in my way too early top 25 that I should have released right after the national championship game, Clemson. DJ Uiagalelei showed us what he had against Notre Dame and against Boston College and Syracuse. Travis Etienne gone. Lynn J. Dixon will start out as the starting running back, but people want to see Will Shipley. Now, he's most likely going to play a tailored down Christian McCaffrey kind of role out of the backfield. Jackson Garman, one of the more talented, maybe not the most productive offensive linemen in the country, is gone. But they bring in some studs along the offensive front, and they've developed a few guys that are now ready. I believe his name's Wes Parks to step into that role. Justin Ross is back at wide receiver. That is enormous. We can't overstate Justin Ross getting back in the lineup for Clemson. Huge. Now they need Frank Ladson and Joseph Nagata to be the players that they were recruited and signed to be. All right. The defensive front is crazy good. Miles Murphy and company, Brian Bressie, they're phenomenal up front along the defensive line. They have the potential to near that 2018 status. James Skalski back at linebacker. Of course, we reported and talked about the Darion Kendrick departure. One of the better cornerbacks in the ACC leaving a couple weeks ago. Clemson at number 3. Alabama not number 1. On the way too early, top 25 here at the Voice of College Football. Alabama at number 2. You lose a quarterback who was the most accurate in the history of college football. You lose the Heisman Trophy winner who was by far the best playmaker in college football. You lose arguably the best running back in college football. You lose 2 top-notch, potentially first-round NFL offensive linemen. They lost some talent on defense. Patrick Surtain and others. Dylan Moses, their leader. But Alabama loaded, ready to roll. Bryce Young at quarterback. 4 running backs that will get the job done, led by Brian Robinson. He's got the most experience. People want to see Jace McClellan. Trey Sanders, a 5-star from a few years ago, may finally stay healthy and contribute there. John Mechie will now get the limelight. Jaleel Billingsley at wide receiver as well. My goodness. Will Anderson is going to be a star on defense. He emerged as a freshman to lead the SEC in sacks. Alabama's number 2. And at least right now, don't hold me to this. I will have my preseason top 25, of course. We are months away from college football. The number 1 team in the country right now, according to the voice of college football, the Georgia Bulldogs. JT Daniels at quarterback will have a complete spring, summer workouts, summer camp to get ready to own this team for the entire season, to be the Joe Burrow of 2021. Stacked at running back with experienced players like James Cook and Zamir White and Kenny McIntosh. The wide receiver core is loaded with talent. George Pickens needs to gain just maybe that much or maybe that much of maturity to stay on the field and be the factor that he should be. Dominic Blaylock and others there at wide receiver. The offensive line, the reason I love Georgia is that they had fewer NFL departures than what was anticipated. Most of those guys decided to give it another go with Kirby Smart and company. The defense is stacked. If you want a full rundown on Georgia football, keep it locked in here. We released a video previewing quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, the whole deal on offense. The defense is coming in the next few days. We have previewed just about all these teams in terms of spring practice. So lock it in here. And now, go. I'm sure, as I see there are 120 comments, I'm going to go back to the very first one that people are going to have their top 25 ready for me. So keep in mind, unfortunately, I could only go back to 635. So anything before 635, I lost. My apologies. Join me on Patreon, 16 cents a day. Help us build the channel. And as Ronan likes to say, reiterating what I say all the time, catch the vision, help us build the vision here at the Voice of College Football. All right, let's start from the top here. Buckeye River Rat up north. I cannot believe analysts that are ranking Ohio State at number 5 nationally. Now, those of you who have watched me for quite some time should understand that if my top 25 comes close to any other top 25s that you've seen out there, that's by coincidence. For those of you who latch onto and know what I produce each and every Sunday during the college football season, which is a top 25 that actually makes sense, note that I don't copy from anyone. I don't just serve up the top 5 or the top 10 or 25 because that's what everybody else has and that's pretty much what looks good. I believe that Ohio State is the 5th best team in the country right now. I believe they've got a roster that's better than 5th in terms of just measuring football talent and potential. But right now I've got Ohio State at number 5 as I am projecting them to be the 5th best team in the country. Not necessarily will they perform the 5th best against their schedule. Okay. Penn State fan 24, Texas my beat. SEC Dog has never watched a college football game. That may explain some of our back and forth, SEC Dog. Never watched a college football game. Yes, LSU fan, I was going to discuss our situation right there concerning the Texas A&M quarterback battle and who people like. Haynes King is one of the 3 names of the quarterback battle there at Texas A&M. Got Michael Hogan in the chat. Good to see you. Blake Arnett. Here we go, number 5. Okay. Jordan Bowman. Talking it up with John Sarian. Quarterback position needs to have stability, but I think they can out-physical every team in the Pac-12. They must be talking about Oregon. 904 Hurricane. Good to see you as always, man. Appreciate you always encouraging everyone to hit the like button. That doesn't stroke my ego. You hit the like button because you like what we do and you want more people to watch it, because the more people watch, the bigger the channel grows and expands, and the more probability that we're going to stay here for a long, long time and talk college football with you. Phil B. Still mad at Jimbo. It appears as though, unfortunately, I can only go so far back in the chat to 635, and that seems to be around number 5 or 6 in the rankings. I'll jump on the phone and look to see what you guys had before that. Marquise, let's go Bucks. SEC dog. Jimbo better not yell at players too much. He'll be selling tires with Dan Enos, if he's not careful. If I'm Jimbo Fisher and I'm able to walk away from Texas A&M after they kick me to the curb, but they've got to kick me to the curb with a big old sack on my back. That's a Elvis Merry Christmas song reference. Anyway, big old sack on my back, loaded with $75 million. Yes, Clemson at 4. No, not Clemson at 4. You were anticipating Clemson at 4. I do think that, Oklahoma, I'm going to be fascinated to see, and we're not going to truly have the answers on Oklahoma unless they falter and not win the Big 12. But we're not going to know about Oklahoma. That's going to be the question. The age-old question is going to be, can Oklahoma compete on the national level once they make it through the Big 12? We're not going to know that, of course, until December. Cheryl, preseason ranks don't mean much in your eyes, and they don't mean much in anybody's eyes, and they really don't mean much. But we're talking college football, and we love doing that. Actually, the rankings in my world, if my proposal would go through for the college football playoff, rankings wouldn't mean anything anytime. When you think about it, for those of you that were here for our unveiling of our college football playoff plan and formula, if you really look at that formula, rankings would never mean anything. They should mean nothing, ever. You can always have rankings. That's fun. That's fine. Jobo, John Sarian, I say that with the caveat of not knowing whether or not to buy into USC this season. College football addict. Big Ten is not what it used to be. Michigan had to take advantage of that if we want to be champions in the next century. The Big Ten is not what it used to be. See, I'm not necessarily buying that. I've got to see it out on the field. I don't know that what we basically saw last year in a short season. Let's consider Michigan played 6 games. Penn State played 9 games. Sure, they weren't that good. We know that. But I think there's a perception there that because Michigan and Penn State are supposed to be good and they weren't good, that the entire conference was down. Well, maybe just the power shifted. I believe Ohio State's one of the top 5 teams in the country, and I believe exactly what my rankings reveal, that Indiana, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Penn State are also 4 of the other top 25 teams in the nation. So what do I have? I've got 5 teams from the Big Ten in the top 25, 5 in the top 21, and that's what I truly believe in regards to how good they are. Now, when I make my predictions preseason, I'm going to match up what I believe about these teams versus the schedule. I didn't do that here. My rankings have nothing to do with the schedule. You're welcome, Jobo. Not number one. Georgia Clemson week 1, of course. That should be awesome. Nick Navarro likes Oklahoma number 1. Okay. SEC dog. Oklahoma may be the sleeper team this year. We'll see. Oklahoma sleeper. Oklahoma sleeper. Well, I thought Alabama was the sleeper team last year. I picked Alabama to win the national championship last year before the season started. I thought they were going to be the sleeper. And I considered Ohio State to be the second sleeper, and I picked them to lose the national championship game last year. So I got your point there, SEC dog. First call of the night coming in, and I will explain to everyone that I apologize that we're back to the old system here. I have a keyboard here that is brand new, worked for a month, will not work now. It no longer connects to my laptop. Therefore, it completely diminishes my sound system, and I can't take the phone calls through the soundboard because I can't operate anything without a keyboard. So we're taking it old school, just through the phone, through the speaker. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Dominic. How you doing?
Hey, Dominic. You're a Georgia fan.
Yes.
When did that happen?
Let's just put it this way. I kind of felt bad for Georgia last season because they didn't make the playoffs, so I felt like becoming a Georgia fan now.
Okay. Well, you're allowed. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You could pick up.
Like I come on and...
I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
So I felt like I come on and give you my late early top 25 prediction.
Okay, here we go. Dominic's top 25. Here we go.
So, starting off at number 25, we got the Ole Miss Rebels.
Okay.
And at number 24, we got the Boise State Broncos.
Hello, Dominic.
Yeah?
We're going to keep tonight's show within 3 hours. So I will give you the time to read off your top 25, but they need to come just a little bit quicker, please.
All right, number 23, we got the Michigan Wolverines.
Okay.
Number 22, we got the Iowa Hawkeyes. Number 21, we got Purdue. Number 20, we got Iowa State.
Okay.
Number 19, we got TCU.
All right.
Number 18, we got West Virginia.
Okay. Like it.
Number 17, we got Duke.
Duke. All right. Awesome. Okay, keep going.
Number 16, we got Georgia Tech. Number 15, we have Virginia. Number 14, we have Virginia Tech. Number 13, we have LSU. Number 12, Kentucky. Number 11, I feel like this is going to be a shocker when I say this, San Jose State.
Well, I think you've already delivered a few shockers. I love it, though, Dominic. Keep going.
Number 10, we have Notre Dame. Number 9, we got Georgia. Number 8, we have the Florida Gators. Number 7, we have the Miami Hurricanes. Number 6, we have NC State. Number 5, we have Florida State. Number 4, we have Ohio State. Number 3, we have Clemson. Number 2 is Texas A&M. And at number 1, the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Okay. Dominic, I love your top 25. Okay. If we could make one small change to it and not have Alabama finish number 1 again, I would sign up for and love to see your top 25 finish exactly the way it is. So who's number 2?
Texas A&M.
All right. So if I could make a deal with you, Dominic, and I know that, of course, you're not going to change your predictions. They are what they are. So I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just saying, basically, if I could sign up for a conclusion to the 2021 season exactly the way I would, not exactly the way I would want it, but a fun season, I would take Texas A&M, put them number 1, put Alabama number 2, and I would love to see the rest of those rankings come true. I'd love to see Florida State at number 5 and North Carolina State at 6. Duke was what, 15, something like that?
17.
17. That would be phenomenal. I would love to see that.
All right, Mark, that's my top 25.
Well, Dominic, thank you so much for the call and taking the time to deliver your top 25.
No problem. Have a good night.
Dominic's top 25 was phenomenal. Big fan. I thought that it was a college basketball top 25 there for a minute. Virginia Tech, Virginia, Duke, NC State. San Jose State was, where were they? Like number 20? Something like that. All right. Hey, it's all just a guessing game at this point for all of us. It's all just a guessing game. Hopefully all of you can hear the calls coming in properly. Here we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
The call will start at the beat.
Hello, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing just fine. Dominic had your Purdue Boilermakers in the top 25 this season.
I have them 35th in the country, and I'm being generous about that.
You probably are, but it's somewhat realistic. Sure.
Okay, for the most part, I agree with you on your top 25, but I would have IU ranked more like around 11th or 12th. Why do you have them like around 18th or 19th?
I just found...
Is it because of Penix or...
basically, I am... so I'm not looking at a schedule. No schedules included. I'm just talking about... I truly believe that they are the 18th best team in the country. I think the teams that I have ranked in front of them are better than they are.
Is it because they lost a lot of their offense last year, or is it because it was okay, let me ask you this. If he didn't blow his ACL, would you pad him up a little bit higher, or would you have him around the same?
Well, that had something to do with it, yes. I agree with that. I did consider Michael Penix because I certainly hope, like everybody else does, that he's ready to roll and he's back to 100%. And I don't necessarily think that they're in horrible shape if they have to go with Jack Tuttle. I think he's one of the better backup quarterbacks in college football, but they do lose something there. And I was not, I know it's a bowl game, but their performance in the Outback Bowl was not very good, especially considering that Ole Miss had all sorts of defensive issues and was missing some of its best players in that game.
Yeah, another thing to try to figure out, I caught the tail end and stuff like that, but I was just trying to figure out, where do you have like Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina?
I've got so I've got Cincinnati at 17, and I've got Coastal Carolina in my honorable mention list, along with Memphis, Washington, Liberty, and Northwestern.
Oh, okay. I can see Northwestern because I get the last bucket. Anyway, I got to ask you this. Cincinnati plays both IU and Notre Dame. Which game has you more intrigued and can be double for
I think that Cincinnati and Indiana is going to be a more interesting game. I think it's going to be a more entertaining game because of the way Indiana plays. I think it's going to be. I think they're more mirror images of each other. Whereas Notre Dame playing more of a pro-style offense, Jack Cohn's going to be a quarterback. They're going to be conservative. They're going to try to impose their will against Cincinnati. But that's more of a matchup game. Now, as you well know, Michael, Cincinnati's going to take the nation more by storm by beating Notre Dame than they will by beating Indiana. They're going to gain more respect. And especially since at that point in the season, people are still going to be determining, well, let's see if Indiana can do what they did last year. We don't know. Where Notre Dame is pretty much established, hey, they're here every year. They're a top 10 team, and that's who Cincinnati just beat. They beat a top 10 team here in Notre Dame, whereas Indiana is then going to have to play out the rest of the Big Ten schedule and show that they're really good for Cincinnati to get some kind of credit for that win.
I think there's a big. I think the only reason why I'm going with Cincinnati, I think, is because had they been in Cincinnati, I think they beat IU down there. But I think IU beat them there. But I got a feeling they're going to destroy Notre Dame at South Bend. Maybe win by at least 14 points.
Wait, who's going to win by 14?
Is that too far-fetched?
Who's going to win by 14?
I think Cincinnati wins by 14 in South Bend.
Well, I do say that it's going to be. It's important in every game who gets the lead and who jumps up early, but it's going to be pretty especially important in that game that Notre Dame doesn't get behind. I don't think that they can get behind because Cincinnati's got a tremendous defense, and Cincinnati and Notre Dame, of course, with Jack Cohn at quarterback, they're not going to be needing to get in high-scoring games with people.
Well, another thing, too, if I'm not mistaken, did Cincinnati defensive coordinator just go to Notre Dame?
Absolutely. Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that kid's playing a role in it, but I don't know, though. Don't tell me about Cincinnati could be a high-scoring offense this year, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Well, anyway, Mark, thanks for taking my call, and that's always great show. Have a good weekend, sir.
Appreciate it, Michael.
Thank you.
All right. Our man Michael, Purdue fan, and also Dominic, a Georgia fan, suddenly calling tonight. So we thank you for that. I ran down my top 25. And for those people that are watching right now that missed the top 25, I will leave that down in the comment section below. And you know what? Now we've got to give incentive to go back and watch the video. And actually, at least scroll through it and look at my top 25. But now we're taking people's responses to the top 25, of course. Here at the Voice of College Football. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who are we talking to?
Mark, this is David Knight. How are you, sir?
David, how are you?
I'm well, hanging in there, brother. And, I hope everybody in the side chat is doing well and being blessed, wish everything best for everybody. I wanted to kind of talk to you about the composite rankings with Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson. Those are definitely the higher teams that are very, very, this has been kind of a five-man race for the last few years, right? But Georgia, and I understand why you would put them at number one, because their composite rankings say they have the best talent versus anybody, in college football. They, for whatever reason, don't seem to get it done. And I know this year they had a quarterback derby that didn't pan out too well, correct?
No, it did not. Not until the last four games of the season.
Yeah, when J.T. Daniels came in, he looked like he played pretty good. I looked at the 2022 rankings for recruits, which that's not going to play into next year, but Ohio State's ranked number one, but Alabama is always kind of just lurking in the background, and then at the end of the year, they finish strong, right, and they're either one or two.
Yes.
But you have LSU, you have Texas A&M, but the madness, what I'm talking about is Georgia. Georgia It's up there. I mean, if they're not number one, they're up there every year. And I believe you may know more about this than myself, is that they have a very good coaching staff. Am I wrong?
They have a good coaching staff. Yeah, all those guys have done well at other stops. Yep.
So outside of having just this 1 year where they had the quarterback derby, what do you think really, where do they fail? Like, okay, that's this year, and this was an odd year for everybody. COVID-19 year, and it was unfair. Like, you can go back to Florida State when people were ready to dump Mike Norvell. Hey, he didn't even get a chance, man. He was trying to do what do they call that? Damage control, right? Because he really never got a shot to even practice with his team. But it's been a hard year for everybody. Hard year for Ohio State, played 6 games. Hard year for Wisconsin. It's just been a remarkably poor year concerning college football, even though we were blessed as see guys play or see teams play. But what do you think? What is in your analysis that would put Georgia at number one? And I'm not debating that that's not a good pick. What I'm saying is they have the best talent. If you look at star ratings, blah, 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 versus anybody, yet, it's like they're up 3/4 of the mountain and then just can't make it to the top. Go ahead, take it.
Okay. I would say that Georgia's up the mountain about 95%. So if we take the 4 years that Kirby Smart has been there, so he's been there for 5 years, but the first year he was in transition. So 2017 was his second season. And when people say that Georgia has not gotten over the hump, yes, technically they've not won a national championship. That's what people are saying because they've done everything else. They have done everything else. They've gone to a national championship game. They've won a college football playoff game. They've won the SEC championship. They've won more games than anybody except 3 other schools in the last 4 years. So in 2017, basically, the team and the performance that Kirby Smart put out on the field was good enough to win a national championship. When you go to overtime in the national championship game, you're good enough to win the national championship. Now, they didn't win it, but they were good enough. He got them there in position to win a national championship. They had a blown coverage. Well, the guy that scored the game-winning touchdown in the national championship game is a guy that we're all very familiar with here now 4 years later because he just won the Heisman Trophy. So he's basically uncoverable, and that's what happened to lose the national championship game. They had a 13-point lead in the national championship game. So bottom line, they didn't get it done, but he got the program in addition to just recruiting out of his mind. He did develop the team and get them to a place to where they were playing with and better than the team that eventually beat them. So that's not an excuse for blowing the national championship game. I'm just saying that they got there. The next season, in 2018, they had a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter against the consensus number 1 team, Alabama. Alabama has basically kept Georgia from winning a national championship.
So, like for me being a Notre Dame fan, when we played them close to 2 games that we played them, I kind of felt good about that, right? Because then we go into other games, and you don't even play anybody close. Like man, I hate to say this, like, because it's embarrassing. But after the first quarter, the game's basically over, right? So I'm thinking like it to myself, how is it we can play Georgia close and they have very good teams those 2 years, yet we couldn't play anybody else close on the big stage, and everybody likes to point at Notre Dame like, yeah, you guys suck, you're no good, you can't get it done. And I would say that's a fair assessment. And more frustrating as a Notre Dame fan than for anybody to say, well, you beat my team out from being in the college football playoffs. Similar to Oklahoma, who also doesn't fare well in the college football playoffs. They're always lacking defense, but you think Oklahoma's defense is going to be much better this year?
I think that was the question to be asked last offseason. Oklahoma's defense was markedly, decidedly, substantially better this last season. So, David, if you look at all the defensive ranks and ratings that mean anything, all the metrics, Oklahoma in 2019, and of course before that, ranked anywhere from 75th to 110th in everything. Awful. They were in the top 15 to 20 in the country in everything last year. Yards given up per play, third down conversions, red zone defense. They were that much better. And they lose their best defensive lineman and their best corner, but basically the rest of their defense is back. I think Oklahoma's going to be good on defense. Not dominant, not great.
That's
They're going to be good.
And that's fair. And, when it comes to attrition, that's where your recruiting comes in. And I hate to keep going back to this, but there's obviously three teams that do well at recruiting. And I don't know the exact attrition that Alabama suffers, nor Clemson suffers, nor Ohio State suffers, but all three of those teams seem to get a good pipeline of really good football players who are willing to take that chance and wait for their moment to play, right? And this is going to be my last question. How do you think, like, when you're a 4 or 5 star player and you come into a highly regarded program as being one of the 3 best, how do you think those recruits feel that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna wait my turn, I'm gonna play hard, and I'm gonna take my shot, and I'm gonna ride this out the best I can? I mean, because it is really, if you think about it, it's kind of a gambling scenario, right? Because Mark, if you play corner and you were a 4-star and then you got good stats, there might be somebody come in behind you and be that much better, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, they're letting this guy play in front of me, and I've been here on the team for 3 years. You see where I'm going with this?
So, to give an example of the point that you're making that I think is very valid, David, we don't even have to go that far down the ranks. We don't have to go down to Purdue or Kansas State or Stanford to make this example. I will take Notre Dame as an example. So we're still talking about one of the 10 best programs in college football. If you would take Notre Dame's wide receiver room, for example, and you would compare that to Ohio State's wide receiver room, you would see that Ohio State has basically stacked 6 or 7 wide receivers that were ranked in the top 10 to 15 in the country at their position when they were recruited and signed. Notre Dame has maybe 2 guys like that, and then they kind of drop off from there. And therefore, what happens here is that how they're able to maintain that kind of recruiting and continue to draw 5 stars in when they know that they're going to have to compete for a job, God only knows, at places like Alabama and Ohio State in particular, those 2 in particular, because think about it, if you're one of the 10 or 15 best wide receivers in college football, in high school football, and you go to even a top-notch program like Washington, Oregon, Penn State, you can play at 75%. And you're going to win a job. You're going to be still the best receiver. You're not getting seriously pushed. You're going to be these teams play 3 and 4 wide receivers on the field, you're going to be on the field. But at Ohio State or Alabama, you could be that good or that talented, and if you don't produce, you're not going to play. If you're going to be,
and you know, that's Mark. That's the madness of all that, is that you can try hard and practice, and you can do everything you can do to prove yourself. And at some point in time, like it's madness because, well, like when do the coaches say, like, I'm going to let this guy play in front of you, and you're like, well, I've done everything you've asked. I've kept my grades up. I played hard. I did all my training. You know, no excursions off the field, and I just think, like, when I say madness, I'm not saying like anger, but like a frustrating scenario. Does that make sense?
well, it makes sense that if some of the schools that I just mentioned get one of the best, and again, we'll use the wide receiver position as an example, if they get one of the top 5 or 10 guys at that position, then he doesn't necessarily have to reach his optimal performance to secure a starting spot. He doesn't have to. If he plays at 75 or 80% of his potential, he's going to lock down a starting spot and he's going to be probably featured. Whereas at Ohio State or Alabama in particular, they have 7, 8, 9, 10 wide receivers in that category. And if he doesn't bust his tail and perform, then he's not going to play.
Wow. So when you decide, I guess in taking what you just said, when you decide to commit to Ohio State, commit to Alabama, commit to Clemson, you know you're in for the game of your life.
You know that this, regardless of your recruiting ranking, that you are going to have to compete for your job and compete. And I'm not saying that the culture at these other schools I just mentioned in their football programs, I'm not disparaging those cultures. I'm just saying that they're going to play the best players as well, but because they have a player or two at that position that are decidedly better than everybody else, that they don't have to play 100% to their ceiling to earn a starting spot. Where at those other schools, there's, hey, if you don't get it done, if you don't play to your potential, we got 6 other guys that can fill your spot, so we don't need you.
I see what you're saying, yeah. And I've often thought that man, when you have, let's say, like 9 wide receivers and all of them are 4 or 5 stars, regardless of whether they are a true freshman, a sophomore, junior, they're going for it, right? Because, quite honestly, this is a ticket for me to the NFL.
Yep.
Sorry about that post there.
I'm with you, David.
That's what I'd be doing. I shouldn't have put that up there. So anyway, man, I'll get out of your hair.
You're good.
Let somebody else get on.
All right, David. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Take care of yourself, bro. Bye-bye.
We've heard from Notre Dame, Dave. We've heard from Georgia, Dominic, and Purdue, Michael. Those are our 3 fan bases that have been repped tonight. Stephen Smith, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Appreciate that. Big 12 fan saying Iowa State is right where I believe they should be. I also do think that Iowa State could be a little lower than 7, but should be in the top 10. Well, let's not split hairs here. I've got Iowa State at number 7. So you believe they should be in the top 10, maybe a little bit lower, 8, 9. Okay. And again, it has nothing to do with schedule. So some people deliver their top 25 based on their assessment of the team versus the schedule. I don't take the schedule into consideration. These 25 teams that I just named, I believe to be the top 25 teams in the country outside of the scheduling factor, which means I believe that Georgia is the best team in the country. All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
The call will start at the beep.
And I was so happy to get this calling system fixed and out there and ready and rolling, but was not to be yet. All right, who's on the line? Hello? Okay. Somebody was on the line, but they were just breathing. So, Stephen, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Stephen has caught the vision, understands that we need your individual contributions to build the product here. Gee, Bama boy, well, Georgia #1 ranking will be over by September 5th. Maybe. But you know what's going to happen to their #1 ranking as long as that's a close game? They're going to fall to like number 4. And then if they continue to win from there, they'll go to 3, and they'll just need to be in the top 4. So, you're absolutely right. All right.
The call will start at the beep.
It's the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Kevin, Dallas, Georgia. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, Kevin. What's going on tonight?
Not a thing. I just needed to try to hit 3 bullets real quick. One was in reference to the way too early top 5, and as far as the usual suspects, as far as Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Clemson. As far as Georgia being number 5, and the reason why number 5. Mark playing in Clemson as far as Georgia. They refuse to change. Alabama had their Damascus Road experience, and I know that you're aware of this, Mark, as far as when Alabama played Oklahoma as far as in the Sugar Bowl, when Travis Knight was the quarterback, and that was the first time that Alabama, as far as with their stereotype line, as far as the big monsters up front, the 245-pound linebackers trying to chase a mobile quarterback. And although the game was close, the deciding factor was Oklahoma had a mobile quarterback. After that experience, you put 2 factors together. One, they changed the mindset as far as their defensive linemen, changed the mindset as far as the linebackers, quicker, faster linebackers, smaller pass rushers as far as on the defensive end side, and also going with a passing game. And once Alabama did that, that's the reason why they've been on the run they've been on. Kirby, for all that he has learned as far as from Nick Saban, the one thing that he did not glean from the Masters, plain and simply, being able to adjust on the fly. He has the same mentality that Nick had almost a decade ago. Georgia's out-recruiting the world every year. But what sense does it make to have 5-star after 5-star after 5-star, and you're not producing?
Well, they are producing. They're producing a lot of wins. And again, okay, they have not, the only thing that they've not accomplished is win a national championship. I don't know what else they haven't accomplished.
Well, that's true. That's true. But when it's all said and done, Mark, it's not a matter of, I know that we're now, not including yourself, because I know you're in a different generation, I'm in a different generation, but as far as the younger generation, it's a matter of participation trophies. And Georgia, in a respect, is one, as far as the fan base, is one step above the ACC mentality after Clemson. Oh, wow, golly gee, we won 10 games. But yes, we lost to Alabama again. Oh, wow, we won 11 games this year, and we played Alabama close.
Kevin, do you really think Georgia has that mentality? I don't think that they could be recruiting.
I'm talking about the fan base. I'm not talking about
the fan base. Okay, the fan base. I think the typical Georgia fan is sick of hearing about how close they're getting and that they haven't won a national championship since 1980, and so that's their reaction to try to stave off criticism. They're just defending their team, their program.
And along those lines, I would just say, as far as
going back to the Notre Dame caller for a moment, Mark, and it was when he was stating as far as how your institutions, say like a Alabama and a Georgia, Ohio State, can be one, and not one, but as far as 2, 3, and 4 deep at position. The one thing I can say about the University of Alabama is that they get their kids to buy into the process. Case in point, there's only one player over the past, I would say, decade, or we'll just go over the time span that Nick Saban has been at Alabama. So we'll say 14 years. There's only one player that is transferred out that was, quote, that dude. And let's go back as far as to their backfield. I'm thinking it was around about maybe 14. And that backfield was Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, and Alvin Kamara. Which one transferred out, Mark?
Alvin Kamara, and he's pretty good.
Yeah,
I see him on Sunday.
After 1 year.
Yeah.
But what is one thing that all three of those gentlemen have in common, Mark?
They're earning NFL paychecks.
That is it. So, and that's the thing with the process. If you buy in, if you bide your time, you wait your turn, you'll get the opportunity. Alvin Kamara is the only guy that's transferred out that didn't wait his turn. And the thing is, he got the end game, and the end game was to make it to the NFL. And the craziest thing about it, Mark, is that even when he transferred to Tennessee, Butch Jones didn't use him right. So, but even in spite of Butch Jones, he still made it to the NFL and still one of the top 3 running backs in the NFL.
And it probably just cost him quite a bit of money his first couple of years in the NFL.
Exactly. And when I look at the top 5, though, Mark, it's as far as Clemson, I would say has the easiest route. After the Georgia game, Ohio State has by far the easiest route as far as their regular season. Oklahoma, I'd say I can only see one possible hiccup, and that would be Iowa State. I don't know whether that's a road game or a home game, but it's just a matter. And when I look at that, Mark, as far as returning quarterback as well as returning running back, as far as those two main things on the offensive side. Now, okay, if it's in Norman, all bets are off, Mark. But if it's as far as is it Ames? If it's in Ames, then okay. Now, I think that they would have as far as a puncher's chance as far as that game. As far as Georgia's concerned, I mean, they only really have 2 difficult games. I mean, I'm not going to even – the cocktail party might get ugly quick, but as far as the first game, as far as Clemson, that's going to be anyone's ball game, as well as the SEC championship, which I expect that to be shoot dog on Georgia and Alabama. So you're looking at pretty much bookends as far as their difficulties in their schedule. But as far as Alabama's concerned, I'm hedging it a little bit, Mark, just as a possibility since the first time in 100 years as far as Florida on the road. But then as far as A&M on the road, possibly. But I mean, that as far as they're lacking as far as what they need as far as that quarterback position as far as also having a new, I don't have the slightest idea whether it's going to be the Haynes kid as far as that quarterback or not, which I guess he will be either a redshirt sophomore or a redshirt freshman, and then as far as Auburn, because that's a rivalry game on the road. But that's it, other than SEC championship game.
So you think Clemson's road is tougher than Ohio State's?
I know that you're getting ready to pull out the sharp knife, Mark, but I'll have to say yes.
Really?
Because really, when I look at Ohio State, I only see one thing, and this is something we've spoken about again, and that is who is going to be the quarterback. That's the only thing.
Well, I'm just looking at the path, meaning the schedule. That's what I thought you were talking about.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what I meant as far as schedule. Now, help me out, Mark. Help me out. Help me out as far as, okay, what landmines do you see as far as Ohio State's schedule?
I think the landmines mostly in the Big Ten championship game, but they also have to play Penn State and Indiana, and they've got a game against Iowa. And I think all 3 of those teams are top 20 teams, and I don't think Clemson plays that. Clemson's got an out-of-conference game that's not going to affect their standing in the ACC and getting to the ACC championship game. And the toughest team that they're going to play would be North Carolina in the ACC championship game, if that's the way it shakes out. I think Clemson is an extremely easy schedule.
As far as those 4 games you stated, Mark, which are road games?
Ohio State goes to Indiana. They've got Penn State at home. They've got Iowa at home, I believe. And, yeah, Big Ten championship game against whoever that's going to be. Wisconsin, Iowa, most likely one of those two.
Well, I can see the Indiana on the road, Mark, but I can't see the other games, although I know that, okay, they're top 25 schools, but you have to give the Buckeyes their due at home. I would be hard to see the Buckeyes lose at home.
Okay, well, I'm right there with you. And we didn't even mention the Oregon game. I didn't even throw out Oregon yet. And I know Clemson's got Georgia, but and Georgia's better than Oregon. But still, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, Iowa, and a Big Ten championship game. I think they've got places that they could slip up, especially since they have a lot to figure out.
Well, the blessing, as far as what the Buckeyes have to figure it out, they have a whole lot of pieces to figure it out with, Mark. And that's the one thing that the other schools in the Big 10/Big 12 can't. They can't say that they have that luxury as far as having a whole lot of figuring out to do. Because the Buckeyes, hey, they're 3 and 4 deep at every position. Once that quarterback room is shuffled out, then it's going to be a matter of, okay, who's going to lead them as far as for this season, in all likelihood, for at least the next 2 years. And then the next question is going to be as far as who's going to be remaining. Will the McCord kid transfer out, or will, as far as the kid from Texas, whether he'll just, maybe decommit between now and December. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, as far as that quarterback room in Ohio. So.
All right, Kevin. Anything else?
Well, just one thing, and I try to do it in 250 words or less, Mark, and it's just that when it comes to the University of Alabama, the one thing I have to take my hat off as far as Coach Saban is concerned is just simply the ability or the willingness, I would say more so, to adjust on the fly. Because every year when it comes to his coaching staff, he's going to have turnover every 3 years. And the one thing I have to just put it down in cement right now, the classes of 2020 and 2021 at the University of Alabama, if they don't win at least 2 national championships in the next 4 years, those classes will, although 21 is supposed to be the best class of all time, but if the 20 and 21, the 20 class as well as the 21 class don't win at least 2 of the next 4, they will have grossly underachieved. Now, along those lines, as far as Coach Saban, he has attrition in the coaching staff normally every 3 years. Why is that the case? Because every 3 years they're going to win a natty, and then once they win a natty, then the next step is to raise the coaching staff. But the one thing I found interesting this year, Mark, that is unlike any other year as far as his hires, is the number of former NFL head coaches. And I believe that it's a matter of him doing his last run, as in, really technically, if he wins 2 in the next 4 years, Mark, he's gone. And I think that a lot of it has to do with him hiring O'Brien as well as Marone.
Yeah, I've given up trying to determine when Nick Saban's leaving Alabama. I never did that to begin with. I don't know what motivates these coaches to keep going. It seems like when he's asked about that, he says that he's gaining more enjoyment and satisfaction out of coaching than he ever has.
Well, as I say in Tuscaloosa, Mark, as long as far as Miss Saban, Miss Terry, that is, say that he can, go on and take his occasional Bath as far as with the Irish Spring in the lake, behind the lake house. As long as she can do the vacation when she wants to. I guess she can go on and do his hobby of coaching. So.
Okay, there you go. All right, Kevin.
But as always, thanks for indulging, Mark. Greatly appreciate it. Continue doing what you're doing. Look forward to talking with you soon.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Have a good night.
Hey, thank you. Likewise.
All right, our man Kevin from Dallas talking up Bama as he typically does. And I got to admit, there were probably about 7 things I had in my brain that I wanted to talk about after Kevin got off the line, and they're all gone. I should write them down because they're gone now. And a number of people had questions in the live chat that I was going to get to, and now I've somewhat missed, although and some of them were just not even really making sense the way they were worded. Matthew, yeah, we got a shelf here. We got mini helmets, so anytime somebody wants to buy me one, go right ahead. If you're missing Nebraska, and if I'm touting Georgia as the #1 team in the country, there's no Georgia helmet. But the budget for equipment and all of this right now is zero. So I know a lot of you have a keen interest in what helmets are displayed. Some of you really care about that. So, and I typically try to display the helmets. If I think of it, I display the helmets of the teams that I'm talking about in that given video. I just produced videos this afternoon with Oklahoma, LSU, and somebody else. Oklahoma, LSU, and I don't remember the other one. And Texas, that's it right there. And that might be the reason why we got those 3. And I took the other 2 down and displayed the Texas helmet. I think you'll enjoy our conversations that we've got coming up in the next few days. You'll see video posts on Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, and others. I should start giving fan base awards. How could I do that? How could we do that? Because I'm going to say right now, do we have any guesses in the live chat as to what fan base, when it comes to not money, when it comes to viewership, what fan base do you think is supporting me the best right now? And I can't prove this. I'd have to go through all the numbers, and I'm not going to do that. But I got a pretty good, all you have to do is look at the videos, and you will see I am getting the best viewership from, I just got a comment in the live chat from this particular fan base. So I'm going to give you credit here in a minute, but the team, the fan base that is giving me the most support right now, it's certainly not Georgia. It's not Georgia. I did a Georgia video about a month ago that for some reason blew up to like 15,000, 16,000 views. The last couple of Georgia videos, though, like 500 views. And that's just not going to cut it, unfortunately. I average about 3,000 views, and we need to do better than that. We need to get that average up to about 15,000 per video. But this team, just in the last, I'd say 6 months, is consistently getting the most views. It's not Miami. It's not Ohio State. This team is getting the most views. It's not Florida. It's not Georgia for sure. Although Ohio State and Miami do me really well. Yes, they typically perform. I'd say Ohio State would be number 2 and Miami number 3. Those would be my guesses. If you just took a per video viewership average, views average, I'm going to go Ohio State number 2 and Miami number 3. And any more other guesses? I did post an Oklahoma video a couple weeks ago that around 11 or 12,000, which is a good number for me. But the last couple did more like 1,500. It's not Florida State. It is, we do have the correct answer right there. Nebraska. Michael Hogue of Nebraska does well for me. Nebraska typically does well. But I got to give it up to Michigan. Those Michigan fans, they must love the misery of us just commiserating about their struggles, because they're watching my videos more than any other fan base right now. And that's been going on for probably at least 3 or 4 months. Even through that god-awful 2020 season where they went 2-4 and didn't play pretty much every time they were scheduled to play. They wouldn't show up. And you had all the drama surrounding Jim Harbaugh and quarterbacks that couldn't play and secondary getting burned every week and them losing to the likes of Michigan State and Indiana and almost losing to Rutgers and Michigan. That could be Zach. Zach could have the answer. Michigan don't have fans. That's just Ohio State keeping tabs on them. And that could be. Yes, the team up north. Buckeye River Rat up north. The team up north, I'd say right now, in terms of the voice of college football viewership, is number 1. I'd say Ohio State's 2, Miami's 3. Florida's good. LSU's good. Nebraska's good. I tell you, if I do Wisconsin, if I do Oregon, USC now, I used to get big views on USC. There's certain teams that I'm like, I should cover these teams, but nobody watches Wisconsin videos. They don't watch my Wisconsin videos. Nobody watches my Oregon videos. Nobody watches my North Carolina videos. And I'm going to be producing one of those just in the next few days. What do we got here? Now, that could get me in trouble, D-Rock Irish, if I rate my fan bases by team. That's going to get me in trouble. You want to get me in trouble, D-Rock Irish. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's George in Portland.
Oh, George in Portland. I'm glad that you stated that it was George in Portland, because otherwise I would have had no clue.
Versus George in, I should have said Portland, Oregon. It could have been Portland, Maine.
It could have been Portland, Maine, and it could have been another George because, you know.
It could have been that other George.
Of course, because you certainly haven't commented enough to the channel through the years for me to have any idea.
All right, listen. Here's some very delicate things about managing a YouTube channel that I have to let you in on, right? I have 2 numbers for you now. I have Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and I have Mark Rogers Live. Those are 2 different numbers. Now, what's going on with that?
Oh, my word, George. You are all over this, aren't you?
We need to explain this to your general viewing audience before they get confused about these 2
you're
numbers
right.
you have now.
I'm going to take us all.
One is produced and run by Tennessee Roadshow, which is, I think you should switch just to that show. That's a well-produced program. I like that.
George.
And then there's this number, the original number.
Okay, George. I appreciate your interest, and I'm going to go through as brief an explanation as I possibly can. And there are currently 59 people watching right now, and I guarantee by the time I'm done with the explanation, I'm going to have like 8 people watching. But I'm going to do it anyway.
No, they want to know. They want to know about the 2 numbers. You can give them out. We can write them down, put them in our phone, and be ready for the next live feed.
Here's the deal, George. This is what happened. As you well know, I have had issues with my call-in process for years. I've just had the cell phone, and it doesn't work well, and you got to hear the stupid operator, and you got to do it through the speaker, and I've not done it the professional way. I bought equipment like last off season that I hooked up and I ran tests, and it just never worked right. I poured resources into equipment to fix the call-in process, and I never got it to work right, so I just continued with the stupid cell phone in front of the laptop speaker. Okay.
Okay, we all understand it. We're right there with you. And
all
then
right.
What happened?
Okay. In the last couple months, I've hooked up with, Volunteer Roadshow, Bobby. I also bought myself, I'm going to display right here, a nice expensive audio board, nice professional Rodecaster audio board. I'm displaying it right now, okay? And I have attempted to, I hooked all this up and did it correctly, set all this up, and Bobby also on the Volunteer Roadshow also has a call-in system that's really slick through a website where I wanted to transition to, like you say, strictly doing it through his system. Okay? And to Bobby's credit, he has given me access to that website to say, Mark, use that all the time. Okay? All right. So my problem has been over the last several days is I've got a brand new, I bought a Mac Mini, I bought a new switcher board, I've put in a bunch of resources into improving the product that aren't necessarily noticeable right now. But I'm showing everyone right now, I bought a keyboard and it's been working for like a month. And suddenly in the last several days, it stopped working. It no longer connects. Therefore, I can't access the website to use the new number because I wanted to get completely transitioned to the new number. So as soon as I can get to an Apple store and buy a new keyboard, or I spent good money on this one, I need this one to work, then I will transition to Bobby's call-in system and we will get all this cleaned up and I will use the new number and get rid of the old number. Okay?
I just want to take 20 seconds to respond to that. I don't know who this guy Catfish is, Bobby, that's driving around a truck making videos, but he got lucky. He got lucky. Whoever he hooked up with on his first try, it really is the answer. Because it was always like a Hollywood production. His sound system, his connection system. I'm glad you made this connection. And so that's the end of that. We all understand what you said. Good job. We love you. It'll work out. Give it a little bit of time.
Yes, we're working through it. And people are telling me to charge the keyboard. I've charged the keyboard. I've tested it out on other laptops. It works.
Yeah, like you have nothing else to do but charge your keyboard. Hire your kid to do that or something.
No, but I understand it has nothing to do with it. The keyboard's not charged. It's charged. It works on other laptops.
Right.
There's something wrong with the connection with this laptop. So
none of that has anything to do with why I called. I was just frustrated because I had two numbers for it. But so you say Michigan's number one? Really?
I say that Michigan fans have been supporting me with views more than any other fan base in the last 6 months.
That blows my mind.
They are.
God bless Michigan.
Every time I put out a Michigan video, pretty much, I'm going to get 10 to 15,000 views on the Michigan videos.
I think the alumni of Michigan know what they're doing. I think they have engaged people to engage you because they realize you have a conflict of interest here. It's like, what are you going to do? It's like,
I'm going to be a sellout to Michigan here pretty soon if they keep it up.
I agree. At the end of the day, hell yeah, you'll be going go big blue.
Now, the fan base, I want to be fair to all those Miami fans that are watching me right now. The fan base that supports me financially the most is Miami.
Wow.
There's no,
you know what? I'm not surprised.
It's not even close. It's not even close. Now, I don't have the numbers to prove it. I'm not keeping a spreadsheet or anything.
Whatever.
But
you kept Miami football alive through the lean years. You gave them a voice through the lean years. Now it's starting to look good. They're starting to get some good recruits.
Yeah. So if anybody,
and then how about you said Ohio State?
Yeah, Ohio State's way up there. It's no big surprise.
All right.
My Florida's way up there. My Florida content does well.
It'll come along. Trust me. I told you should have fucking retired and moved there long ago. But you want to be more like for everybody, not just for one team. You're just an analyst. You're just bringing on the best bloggers and, you know.
I'm doing it my way. I don't know that this is the best way, but this is the way I'm doing it. Yep.
Mark, does it make you feel any better to know that you would have been laid off like 12 months ago if you had stayed at ESPN?
12 months ago. I just left there like 3 months ago. I left in October.
But you know what I say. Right after you made your decision, they laid off like 10,000 people.
Well, I knew that.
Everywhere.
I don't believe they laid off 10,000. I think it was
Right.
like
If you count
400.
CBS and World News Network, they did. It just was like an explosion of people, you know.
I am not saying that I am not facing a lot of challenges and adversity financially based on my decision, but despite that, George, it is the best decision I could have possibly made.
Right, I agree. And I have one last thing to say. We have to give some credence to Florida State. I can't believe I've spent like 38 hours of my life on your Florida State channel. How is that even possible?
They don't know. Keep doing it, George. Bring more people over there. George, here's our mission, George. We need to get all these channels up to 1,000 subs.
I know how to do that.
So if you can help me do
I know
that.
how to do that. Listen, if Uncle Lou and Pigskin Pete put you on a subscription drive for all your different channels, they can get like 1,000 people to go click on 9 different links. That's what you need. And then watch a video once in a fucking while, you know?
Yeah, or if I could just get my 25,000, just 1,000 to get over there to the other channels, that would be great. That would do
listen, it. Once you get this all set up and running, you have my private phone number. Call me and I'll explain to you about private ecclesiastic trusts and commercial law. And there's a whole other world out there, Mark. It's all legal.
So George, you just reminded me that actually we're going to have a big 25,000 celebration. I should be hitting 25,000 maybe in hours here. I forgot about that.
It makes me want to cry, quite frankly. I've been with you since like 3,000 or so. This is
Something like
special.
that. It's been a long time. I think
Yeah.
you and Navy Thomas are the two that still call me that have been with me the longest. That would be my guess. You and Navy Thomas.
Yeah. Navy Thomas, the Nebraska man.
Yes.
That's why I always say good things about Nebraska. I go, I love Nebraska. I drove through there twice in my teens. I do love Nebraska. You know, all those towns, Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, I've been through all those towns where the football teams are, and I see their stadium. And it's like a town of 20,000 people, Mark, or 50,000. You follow me? And you can't even believe what you're looking at. Like, that's Nebraska. I love those people so much. To put out football teams like they do in that desolate environment, I love them so much. I couldn't live there, but I like supporting their college football team from afar. My God.
Well, George, it was a fun phone call.
The whole
Anything
city,
else?
The whole city's a gray out, you know. Just nothing. There's a shingle and a gray building. Omaha, any of them, pick any town, you know, in the Midwest.
We've only lost about 10 viewers, so that's not too bad.
All right, we have not. I think we owe this to Oklahoma. We said one word about Oklahoma. They are pretty good supporters too, right? Looking in.
I believe so. I can't think of any
Yeah.
Oklahoma. I can think of, wait a minute. I can think of 2 Oklahoma fans. We got Sooner Thrawn and we got 288028. Big Oklahoma fans.
I'm just saying.
Matthew Bros. We got Matthew.
Down the teams you named at the beginning of this video, and I just repeated them all back to you, and you did a good homage to them all. But the reason I called you is this. You need sponsorship, right?
Oh,
So you're going to have to find somebody that goes to a business in that town, in Ann Arbor or wherever. There should be a pizza joint that would love to say, we support Mark Rogers, and paste it all over their building and put it on their menu, you know? So that's for fun, you know? Makes it fun for the whole community, you know?
George, I was looking around YouTube the other day. This was for another venture I'm thinking about in trying to pull in other YouTubers. I was looking at YouTubers that do a pretty good job that I've never heard of. I was just doing like Florida football talk just doing search Oregon football talk. You know, that's all I was doing, and finding all sorts of people that talk different college football teams. I was consistently finding YouTubers that have like 1,000 subs that have sponsors. And I'm like, why can't I get a sponsor? I find these YouTubers with like 500 subs and they got sponsors.
You know what you're going to do one day by accident? You're going to bump into somebody that's a marketing student at a university that's listening to one of your shows. And he's going to go, hell yeah, you have a good time, get you bucket. And somebody's going to help you because there's no reason for it, Mark. You understand? But you know what? It does help that you have 9 channels with 1,000 subscribers or 23,000 or 15,000. You know, it's good. It's you're primed. You're ready for it. You just need that guy, you know, because there's no reason that you're not doing it. That you don't have a guy in Oklahoma, a guy in Washington, a guy in California, a guy in a sponsor for their team. And you do shows about their team, and then if they can watch it or not watch it, you know.
Well, these are things that we're working on every day. While people think I'm just reading books about college football, I'm actually never doing that, unfortunately. I'm doing this kind of stuff. I'm trying to just pursue sponsors and ways to do that. And we build a website, which I can point everyone to.
During the coronavirus, when everybody is stuck at home, they need a distraction more than ever. It would be a good time for a local business to support a YouTube channel so people could have something to do in their off time. You know, like let's talk about football. Can't talk about coronavirus all day. I mean, football season's upon us.
I know I'm done talking about it.
Football season is breathing down our backs. I see a real problem here. Alabama thinks they're better than Clemson. Clemson thinks they're better than Florida State. Florida State thinks they're better than Miami. Florida thinks they're better than everybody. Then there's Ohio State, and USC, and have I named Oregon? I mean, Nebraska. I'm starting to breathe heavy.
Take it easy, George. All right, George. It was great to hear from you tonight. I love your marketing ideas.
Just talking about local. I was just calling to talk about local marketing. Like, there's got to be an Ann Arbor guy that wants to sponsor your message channel. I don't get it.
Well, we got to figure out who that person is and how to contact them. See,
and how much are you going to charge them?
Okay, I'm going to make a point off of your point because you make a great point there because, so for example, I've got an Ohio State Live show every week, right? Those 3 guys that I have on every week, they have their own podcasts in addition to their writing, and their podcasts are not as popular as mine. They have much smaller subtotals on their YouTube channels, and they're all sponsored because they have they're right there in Columbus. They have, they're amongst the Ohio State crowd, and so they can talk to people, and they've got friendships and relationships built, and they get sponsorships. I don't have that. I'm a national guy, so I don't know anyone in these college towns.
Right.
That's to your point.
That's why. Mark, that's why I said you're going to bump into some young marketing student, some marketing student from Florida, maybe, from any university is going to see your channel and hear what you're saying right now. You talk about it sometimes. This isn't the first time we've talked about this or anybody's talked about it. Like, you just need that guy, and tell him what you want. I want a sponsor's chant in every town, period. In the story. It's 600 a year, 800 a year, 2,000 a year, depending. And you can build it depending on subscribership. It's for their advertising, not yours. It's to make them, look good. They have a channel,
Man.
Like, did you ever really want your own football channel?
We've got something here, George. I just have to figure out how to execute it.
Sponsored by Bozo Pizza, whatever, sponsored by blank. In that town, it looks good. They put on their menus. They can send it out on newspaper ads, however you do it nowadays, on
Man,
the internet.
you got my wheels spinning, George. All right. I'm going to get on.
Make money, man.
Well, I know that a few years ago, I went on Twitter and I said, I would like to have interns. So if you're qualified as an intern, these are the qualifications, bam, bam, bam. And I sent that out. Within 15 minutes, I had 4 people contact me to be an intern.
I saw that disaster. I was there for that.
Disaster? It wasn't a
It didn't work
disaster.
out too good.
Well, yes, it did. I had 2 very capable interns for months. Do you know who one of them is? Or was?
Say it.
The
I
gridiron
can say it.
expert. Do you know who that is?
That's what I'm talking about. It did not work out. He was not comfortable on camera. It's better when he just does his own thing from his bedroom.
Well, no. I didn't want interns to come on camera. I got plenty of people to come on camera with me. No, he and a young lady were working behind the scenes for me. It worked out extremely well.
That's how you build an empire. That's good shit, Mark.
Well, I'm going to have to stay
I'm
after it.
really glad you told me that. I'm really glad you told me that. That's awesome. I understand what you're saying. He's like idiot savant of research.
So, okay. All right. Sounds like I need to get
All
off
right.
here and start planning this out. That's what I need to do.
I just called to say go Michigan.
Okay. Thanks, George.
Talk to you later.
Have a good night.
Bye.
You too.
Our man, George. It's always a pleasure. I have unleashed my top 25. And so for anybody that's either watching live right now or going to watch the replay, and well, if you watch the replay, you'll see the top 25. But anybody watching right now, you know what you need to do. So anybody who's watching the live show at any point and you missed a bunch of it, then of course you just wait for the video to post. You go back and you watch the entire show and you catch what you missed. And of course, get us some sponsors. All right. So, College Football Addict is telling me, get a sponsorship from Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends. I have no idea what that is. And if it's possibly a prank, I don't know. A joke? College Football Addict? Raid Show Legends. And then David is telling me to contact Husker Max. I know who they are, somewhat. I think they're the rivals. No, they're not rivals. Are they 247 Sports? Anyway. And I'm not getting the connection on whether they would sponsor me. Anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll get after some people. But here's the deal. We're on Patreon. So I'm going to be very open, honest, transparent about this, as I always am. You go on Patreon, you're not going to get a whole lot right now. Basically, we've got exclusive live streams with me. We did one last Friday. We're going to do one this weekend. So if you want to hang out with me and talk to other people in our community, like Sooner Thrawn, if you want to talk to Sooner Thrawn and David Knight and Ronan and whomever else, well, we do exclusive live streams. Lewis Papp, Phil B, on Patreon. So join us on Patreon. It's going to cost you 16 cents a day. 16 cents a day. And you can give me your requests for exclusive content there. All right. Also, keep in mind that, again, Patreon. I for all the people that are very, very generous to give me $5 here, $10 here, whatever, I would think that you would just say, you know what, 16 cents a day, that's $5 a month. You go on Patreon. And we're still trying to figure out exactly what we're going to deliver there on Patreon on a regular basis. But you do get exclusive live streams with me. You get all my college football predictions, which you would have known at the beginning of the season that it was going to be Alabama and Ohio State in the national championship game. Because who predicted it? Before the season started. You would have known that Tampa Bay was going to win the Super Bowl. You would have known that there was a prop bet out there concerning an over on sacks in the Super Bowl, and you would have gotten out as well. So join us on Patreon. Just grab the link in the description section of any of the videos on Patreon. You can contribute by grabbing. Yeah, I'm too old for your. Yeah, I don't know. I'm even an old. I'm not going to say how old I am. I'm even old for that age. I get this from people all the time, or used to, especially at work, and they say it with all kindness and respect and love. But basically that I looked about 15 years younger than my age, but I didn't act, but my likes and my taste are like 15 years older. All right, good stuff. Again, subscribe, share the videos on social media. Please do that. If you go out there, you take the videos that you already like. If you like them, then other people will as well. Consider this. Consider if you've got, I should have all of you guys respond. How many people follow you on Twitter? I've only got like 3,000. How many people follow you on Twitter? College Football Addict, you're way ahead of my birthday. And let's keep that away. Yes, SEV dog, I'm 80. I am 80. And I love every so often when people think I dyed my hair. It's just a little gel that makes it look that dark. Anyway, College Football Addict has like 3 followers on Twitter. Okay, well, there's 3 people that can watch us, right? There's 3 people you could bring in. So if you share the videos out on social media, I figure it this way. If you like the content, if you enjoy the conversations, if you enjoy the live chat, if you enjoy calling, then boom, you just go out on Twitter, you share the videos, and then we'll bring in other people. So, Bleach Orange says 0 followers on Twitter. Matthew Braz is at 8. 2 from his mom. And then Gunsmoke, 1 of 3 backs get benched. Oh, we're talking football? Really? We talk football here? Okay. The Rod Favre's turning 39 on the 29th. Is there a 29th to February this year? Okay. College Football Addict says he'll promote my contact more. I've told people about it, but I'll be more actively promoting it. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. All right. Did anyone catch the 1997 Disputed National Championship video we turned out today? We had a bit of a, Lewis Papp is 64. Lewis, happy birthday. Everybody, happy birthday to Lewis Papp. Everybody join in the happy birthday celebration to Lewis. Oh, I'm sorry, College Football Addict. It is not February anymore, is it? We're like 5 days into March. Man, it feels like February. It still looks February outside. But D-Rock Irish has 645 Twitter followers. So think about all the viewers you could bring in. And the Rod Favre's got 194. And College Football Addict, did I have to remind you again? It's not February anymore. It's March. Happy birthday, Lewis. What was I talking about? Oh, we had an unfortunate incident with the video releases today. This happens from time to time. I released 2 videos at exactly the same time. One was supposed to be for tomorrow, and I got the dates mixed up. So I released my Clemson video at 5 a.m. this morning and the Georgia video at the same time. That is not good for viewership, to just be turning out videos like 2 at the same time. And then sometime this afternoon, I had not considered that the LSU news conference was going to be out there and that situation was going to blow up, and that I would be releasing a video on the LSU scandal. So my 1997 Disputed National Championship video probably got buried as well. But if you enjoy that kind of stuff, we dissected the 1997 Michigan-Nebraska race for #1. and the debate over Nebraska or Michigan as the national championship in '97. So please check out that video if you're into college football history and if you've got another year you would like me to do. But typically people don't like watching those videos. I've got a very small amount of people that just love college football history, headed up by DeAndre, who likes to watch those videos, so I knock one out every so often. Moonbot7 left his comment on the vid. I may have seen that, maybe. If I don't get to your comments in the comments section, I apologize, but just consider that fortunately we get a lot of traffic and I just don't have time to comment to everyone. All right. SEC Dog is telling us that Dennis Wilson, the voice of college football, knows what to put on the thumbnail, sir. He knows knowledge when he sees it. Don't know what that's about. Mo Dean, I'm going to round up people in my neighborhood at gunpoint and make them watch your show at my home. I'll have soda and popcorn too. Well, if they get soda and popcorn, that sounds like a good time right there. Sooner Thrawn. Wild prediction. Bob Stoops in a few years and his son will be done at OU. COVID recruiting issues, etc. be over. Kirk Ferentz will be done and Stoops goes back to his school. Iowa for $5 million a year. Thoughts? Does Bob Stoops in 5 years really want to coach, continue to be coaching at that point? How old is Bob Stoops? He's got to be, he went to Oklahoma in 2000. Bob Stoops was playing at Iowa when I was in high school. So he's probably in his, what, 57, 58? 5 years, he's only in his early 60s. Guess that could happen. Iowa could do worse. Bob Stoops could think, okay, I can run a big-time college football program, but the pressure is fairly low. Sure, that could happen. George has faith in Scott Frost. That's good to know. SEC Dog, yes, I do give you a hard time from time to time, but it's good stuff. I'm glad that you don't take offense to it. I saw some things on Twitter today, and I saw some things about cancellation and cancel culture and all that business that got me so worked up that I thought, you know what, I'm going to get on here someday, and I'm just going to say, you know what, I almost tweeted this out to say anything to me, I'm not going to be offended. I'm going to be the first one in America, apparently, that's going to step up and say, nothing's going to offend me. I am all for freedom of speech. Now, I truly believe that there should be things that are left unsaid. Anything, of course, that's racial or offensive to women or offensive based on religion, there should be left alone. We shouldn't. But the things that offend people now, oh, my word. Stoops is 61. Thank you, Lewis. You're 64. He's 61. Okay. What do I think of Kentucky? Landon Scott. I love Kentucky. I talked about Kentucky. I've got them ranked number 23 in the country. I think Mark Stoops is doing a tremendous job. Of course, Joey Gatewood is going to be the key at quarterback in replacing Terry Wilson. I think they're fairly weak at wide receiver. They have tremendous running backs, offensive line. The defense is set. I love Kentucky. We'll be previewing Kentucky soon. Not seriously if I considered politics. I wouldn't have the stomach for it. Too much corruption out there that I would be exposed to that would just, I would think, okay, really, do I need to pass this bill this badly that's going to get this initiative that I want passed, but I gotta play the political game, and to get the votes over here and here and here, we got to include this crap? I would hate that. Oh my word! What did I tweet the other day about sensitivity? This I believe somebody may catch on to what I was talking about, because sometimes I'll catch things in the news, and because of the whole cancel culture, I won't just obviously say blank, this is my statement against this. But if you read between the lines, you will know what I'm talking about. I deliver some of those kind of statements. So the other day, this was just maybe yesterday, I said, here's my statement. Maybe you'll be able to see this. I don't know. Let's see. Watching so-called news people discern and validate or invalidate someone's apology, whether sincere or not. Mob culture, social justice police, hopefully that didn't come across the wrong way, social justice police insanity. Pathetic. What I mean there is that, okay, we have people making statements that, first of all, there is a First Amendment of freedom of speech. Now, of course, there should be some limitations to that. Some limitations to freedom of speech that I think that 98% of the reasonable people in this country could agree to. I think that 98% is lessening by the day, though, because people are crazy. And I never thought I would be so ashamed and disappointed with this country than I am right now. But that said, I believe in freedom of speech to the hilt. There are exceptions. Just like I believe in freedom of content on the internet. Are there exceptions? Yes. Child pornography, exception. Don't want that. It should be banned, outlawed, criminalized. Yes. And there are a few other things. Okay, freedom of speech. Okay. When somebody makes a statement that in no way is pushing any of those horrible boundaries, but the cancel culture and the mob, the social media justice mob, comes out and says that person needs to apologize, we will force them to apologize. And of course, whether they believe it or not, or mean it or not, they are going to apologize. So then what happens? That person apologizes. Whether they mean it or not, they apologize. And then everybody in social media, the social media mob, gets on their high horse, on their soapbox, and passes judgment on whether the apology was sincere or not. Okay, the person said something first and foremost that they shouldn't have to apologize for. They did apologize based on the mob mentality coming after them. They were forced into an apology. And now you're not accepting their apology because it didn't seem sincere. Well, who are you to judge somebody's apology? So pathetic. Pathetic. College football addict. I'm ashamed of my generation. I think when problems aren't there, people try to make them up. Thank you. They do. And that's why this generation is so concerned about feelings. Modine. The First Amendment, though, is for government not impeding your speech. Which is why here you can block someone from speaking without having to answer to anyone. Oh, absolutely. I don't have any issue with, for example, if I'm on Twitter and I have followed a bunch of people that are spewing out whatever I don't want to see, whatever that is. Hofstra basketball, that offends me. Hofstra basketball, I don't like it, I don't want to see it. And they refuse to relent, and they just hammer me with Hofstra basketball. And so I can't get away from it, so I block them. Yes, you should have the right to do that. Of course. That's not impeding their freedom of speech. That is safeguarding you against their freedom of speech. Yes, I'm doing my show. At the current second, 36 people want to be watching and listening. If you don't, then you leave. And there are limitations, again, to freedom of speech. Absolutely. All right. While we're on that subject, I'm going to take my freedom of eating liberties while we still as Americans have the freedom of being able to eat, I don't know that that's going to be taken away anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised. I know that they tried to do that in New York, tried to tell people that they needed to be healthier, and they took certain items away from them at some point. But I appreciate everybody here. It's been a good time for the last 2.5 hours. And believe me, the college football videos are coming out. And I'm going to set up a Miami live stream here in the next few days to respond to all the Miami comments. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate it. they might. You know, that's a theory. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining in here. And again, keep in mind that I'm going to go on the Miami channel in the next few days. If you have any interest in that, just to respond to viewer comments that were a bit seething concerning certain content there. You guys are amazing. We got Moonbot here, and a lot of people jumping on that I don't usually see. That's great to see. Nathaniel, thank you so much. Ryan as well. SEC Dog, thank you so much. Stephen Bowden, Mark, you lied about your age. I don't believe it. All right. It's good to see everyone. Cheryl, thank you so much for showing up as always. Michael, you as well. Michael Hogue and Mo Dean. And I can't name everybody, so thank you so much, and we'll see you soon, okay?